Hello everyone. Today we have a spicy ghost build. And the ghost build is courtesy of Safetyblade. Creates all kinds of great content. I'm going to leave a link to his socials in the description below. He's on Twitch, he's on Twitter. I believe he has a YouTube as well, and he creates a lot of articles and content for Marvel Snap Zone. Now, Safetyblade tweeted this out a couple of days ago, and it is a list that wants to use Ghost. It is a list that does pretty successfully with Ghost as well. So an overarching just kind of summarization of why Ghost is bad in most regards. So Ghost is one of those cards that in most decks where you want to drop that initiative, so a Sarah counter deck, just a counter deck in general, something where you want to do like a counter play or reactive play on the last turn. A lot of times you're not going to have initiative going into those turns anyways, and so Ghost doesn't usually serve much purpose or much value. However, in this one, we are looking to gain initiative through things like Mr. Fantastic, locking down lanes with something like Professor X into that turn 6 play, and if we have 2 lanes already in our favor, then Ghost is going to be so critical in allowing us to counter those last turn big power bursty plays from the opponent, whether that be strong ongoing cards or just really tall high power cards. And we also have the control elements of the Spider-Man and the Professor X, which I love. I love control style builds, and I think this one does a good balancing act of having both early game good card, good value plays into a late game counter heavy where you're not really putting as much power on the board anymore, but you're looking to just destroy whatever the opponent wants to do, swinging the game back in your favor. Now, there's a lot of benefit in having that surprise element, that surprise factor of being able to take out the opponent and still already have one lane guaranteed locked down with Professor X. Maybe you have another one locked in with Spider-Man. You can guarantee where the opponent's cards are going to go, giving yourself an easier target for your Enchantress, Shang-Chi, those big counter plays. And then we do have the Lizard, which normally if the opponent caps out that lane is awful. But in this sense, we have Enchantress to take away that negative ability, sometimes giving us so much momentum that we're able to overtake the lane just with that play alone. We have the Nebula and the Green Goblin as a way to one, encourage the opponent to play a lot of their resources into one lane to stop Nebula from growing, and then Green Goblin to help cap it out before we lock down one of the other lanes with Spider-Man on turn 5. And overall, the deck is beautiful. I have had so much fun with this deck, and this is in a time where some decks just don't do very well. And I was able to maintain around a 56-57% win rate while using Ghost, which nobody uses Ghost right now. And so being able to utilize a card that I've had since she was Series 5, and I just couldn't ever find a good use case, feels really, really good. Now, Ghost is a Series 4. I wouldn't say go out and buy her, but if you happen to have pulled her and you've never had a deck to use her in, definitely give this one a shot. It is very restrictive, very lockdown heavy, can put your opponent into some really tough, unwinnable scenarios. So we are going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. All right. First up, we have Resilient. The first location is Pet Mansion. We are going to go ahead and start with our Ghost. Now, we haven't seen much Killmonger recently. It has dropped off pretty greatly in how many people are actually running it. And so with that, we get a little bit of benefit. You can usually float your one-cost cards without too much issue. And if it gets destroyed, honestly, it's not the end of the world. It just helps us sometimes with that late game last turn counterplay. So we are going to go ahead and do our Lizard into mid. We have Enchantress if we need to end up just taking away that negative deficit of the Lizard. Let's see.
This just in.
Ooh, we get Null from their Daily Bugle. So we know that they're probably looking at some kind of like Galactus play, and I'm here for it. Now, the only thing that really hurts us here is if they end up doing a Doc Ock. A Doc Ock could be really detrimental to us being able to have both Spider-Man and Null, Spider-Man and Enchantress on the last turn of the game. It becomes really difficult to guarantee that we have those resources. Now, if they do a wave into whatever, then I think we can hold down the game. The wave, unless we gave them our Spider-Man. So it's a gut read. It's going to be a gut read, but I think we play Null into Dream Dimension. Because if they do a Doc Ock, they're going to drain the rest of everything else. but they haven't ramped otherwise. And then if they do a Galactus here, then we'll just do a Spider-Man, and it'll equal at least a tie. But if we draw Jeff, then we can force the win. Ah, it's unfortunate. We got the read wrong. I thought I put myself in the shoes of a Galactus deck runner, and I would have wanted to make sure that I didn't have initiative going into these turns. But Ghost is going to make sure that they do, which is so wild. I guess they could have the Spider-Man that we sent them, or that we had in our hand from the Daily Bugle, but we're going to double lock it out. And so there's a small chance that we draw into Jeff. There's a small chance that they have Jeff as well, and that's the way that they win it. But I don't know. They go with Nimrod. So we get the lockdown. Like they can't destroy, they can't play, they can't do anything else. And so we're able to hold down the win. We can do 5, 6, 7 power. Since we're not currently in the lead, we can't do the crossbones. But we can do the 7 power. They can't play. Even if they can do like a Jeff, we still win. And so Galactus, you never learn your lesson. Which is one of the reasons I'm really enjoying control style decks right now, is that if Galactus happens to get their play, a lot of times you can bait them into big snaps by having the Spider-Man to lean in on. We'll go ahead and take the 2 cubes. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Morbin on you. The first location being Kiln is not terrible for us. We do have Jeff to be able to reach there after the fact. We have a Spider-Man. We have a Professor X. This is a control heavy, but also counter heavy style build, which I love everything about this. I love everything about this kind of build style. I really enjoy the control heavy aspects of deck building, and this leans into them. I think probably one of the better ones that I've seen, because it doesn't get clunky at any point. It doesn't rely on always having Storm, always having Professor X, always having Spider-Man. Although your power output is relatively low, you can make sure that the opponent's is incredibly low as well. So they haven't played for Kiln yet. They did play Space Stone, so they'll be able to move Viper over if they want to. Do we think they're going to try and do like a Doc Ock or something to get extra power there? Like the Crossbones, I honestly would have liked to play away from Kiln. I don't know that they're going to fight for it. I almost would have liked to fight for this tower for a Professor X lockdown on turn 5, but I don't know. I don't know if that's the way that we do it or not. We do have Zabu that we can use so that we'd be able to do both like an Enchantress and the Shang-Chi on the last turn. Maybe that's what we lean in on this next turn, is like a Zabu and a Lizard. So they do move their Viper over into Muir Island. They play 1 card, the Juggernaut, into Fisk Tower, which is so odd. Why would you not be trying to push the cards into Fisk Tower instead of away from? I mean, we'll take it. We're fine with it. We're going to do the Zabu, the Mr. Fantastic. That'll reach here and here. We're going to give up this location. This location is a lost cause. But we are going to try to reach with Mr. Fantastic. Next turn, we can do an Enchantress plus another 4 cost. So like a Shang-Chi is going to be our ideal. And they snap. I'm so confused. I'm so confused as to like what they have or what they're running. The Professor X lock in Muir Island, that's big. That's big. We have the Ghost though. So if they're leaning in on Devil Dino, we're going to be able to counter it. Fortunately, we can't counter like a Thanos, but we have the Lizard and Enchantress both to lean in on. We're going to take away the Mr. Fantastic. We don't need it. And we're going to take away the Zabu, but this being the last turn, we're perfectly fine. I'm curious what they snapped in on. Like, yes, you have 1 lane locked down, but we have Kiln locked down. So then it comes to a fight of Fisk Tower. So this is the great battle of Fisk Tower for an extra 2 cubes. And right now we have initiative. So Ghost is fully in control of this game. So Ghost is the sole reason why we're not going to reveal first, allowing us to try to position our cards in counterplay measures instead. They do 3 cards. Mojo, huge. We're going to be able to counter that. The Titania, a little bit less so. And then Debris, which is fine. We have the Lizard. We're going to take away the Mojo's ability, and that gives us an extra 4 back on our Lizard. And I think that swing is enough to put it back in our favor, right? Just barely by 1 or 2. By 1. We win the lane by 1. They had an explosive last turn play. That was a very strong, solid last turn play, but the Enchantress was just the counter card that we needed, and we were able to find a way to win. We will take the 4 cubes, courtesy of Ghost, and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Before. And before we forget, have you subscribed today? Are you currently subscribed? Do you like the content? If you do, let me know. I enjoy the feedback, and it really helps me develop and continue to progress my content. And if you're not subscribed but you enjoy the content, what are you doing? Subscribe, help me out. If not, you're fine. You don't have to. I understand. That was so many back and forths in 1 second. I apologize. So we get Weird World. We immediately draw their Hela. So we know that they're gonna be missing that. Pretty cool Hela variant. We get Tinker's Workshop. We're gonna have 4 energy here. We could early curve the Enchantress, but honestly, I think we just something like Mooster Fantastic onto the board. We could try to do maybe Enchantress somewhere. We have Professor X to do a lock. We know that they're not going to be able to resummon with Hela, and so that's going to be our biggest asset. And they did snap on us, kind of surprisingly. They snapped on us, unless okay. So they discard Odin. I mean, maybe they could have a Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider would be wild, and it'd be like a blast from the past in this location. The Ghost Rider resummons the Odin, discards another card, and then resummons it as well. Would be so wild, and I'm here for it. All right. All right, we're gonna go with Jubilee. Next turn, we're gonna go Professor X in one of the lanes. I don't know where, just somewhere. And we pull Nebula. Ooh, that's not a great. It's not great. It's not great in the least. They do have our crossbones. Fortunately, they got our cross. All right, I'm gonna go Professor X into mid, which turns out to be the wrong. Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't the wrong decision. I thought it was the wrong decision, but it turns out they were gonna try and cap out our lane with Green Goblin, and they were unable to do so. And so now we can do a double drop. Now we have to be concerned that they have some pretty big plays. They could have a Giganto. They could have a Magneto. We're going to send it anyways. We don't have anything better than the 9 power play that we're going with the Swordmaster and the Blade. Maybe they don't have Giganto. Maybe they have Captain Marvel instead, and we are able to hold down the 4-cube win. It's not pretty. It's definitely not. It's not a pretty win, but a win is a win nonetheless. We will take it. Weird Worlds always make the games just so interesting. Not necessarily deck relevant, but interesting nonetheless. Let's go ahead and take it and jump over into the next one. All right. Next up, we have DOI Inferno. DOI Inferno. Conferno. Do Inferno. I don't know if it's like DOI is dead on. Oh. DOA is dead on arrival. I don't know what DOI is. So it's Do Inferno is what we're settling on. They played a Blade. What is with these Hela decks recently? Interesting. I'm wondering who's been pushing out any Hela decks. Let's go ahead and do a Zabu. We have Green Goblin, which is going to be a -6 power resource in Shuri's Lab. So if we're assuming that they're going to resummon cards eventually, this is going to be really big at restricting and giving them a lot of negative presence on the board. Ooh, wait. That's even better. Honestly, you can't beat that. The -6 was great. -12 is even better. I'm not going to snap into it because that always looks too suspicious. Snapping into the Bar Sinister the turn that it shows up. So we're going to cap it out for probably the 1-cube retreat. But I think it's a little bit too telltale a lot of times if you snap into it ahead of time. Now, had we already snapped, that's fine. You can play there. If maybe it reveals, you wait a turn, something else reveals, you snap, maybe you can get away with it. But otherwise, a lot of times we would rather play it cautiously and wait. So let's go with the Ghost. We're going to go with the Mooster Fantastic. For our turn 5 play, we're going to have Spider-Man. I would snap at this point, but I am very confident that they would retreat. And so they're only going to have one location to play in on the final turn of the game. The sunspot is a little bit surprising to me. Actually, they're not going to have any. Right now, they only have one spot to play in on the final turn. But we have the Spider-Man to make sure that they won't be able to. Now, they can try and soak and outpower us with the sunspot versus Nebula. But as far as Shuri's Lab, they're not going to be able to do a big resource. So Captain Marvel is the last thing that they can play. And we will now hold it down. I assume we see the retreat come down. We get the good old fist bump, the acknowledgement that they have nowhere to play anymore. So we will take the 1 cube, and even if they had, let's look at it from a perspective, even if we didn't have the Spider-Man there, we had Ghost on the board, and we had Shang-Chi. So whatever they played, that doubled up a Hello, which would resummon the Ghost Rider and would be 12 power. We have the Shang-Chi to destroy that, and then we have the Shang-Chi to destroy that. We wouldn't have the Crossbones because we wouldn't have priority, but we would still be able to destroy whatever was in Shuri's Lab. So it almost would have been better for us to just play the Crossbones instead and angle towards swinging the location with Shang-Chi on turn 6. But we will take the 1 cube. We will take 1 cubes where we can. Let's go ahead and take it and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Andival. And the first location is Kunlun. We have Lady Ghost herself in our starting hand. And so we're going to go ahead and play it over there. They have Nova. So they could have, it could be a Killmonger deck, so like a Sarah Tech deck. It could also just be like a Destruction deck. And either way, we're in for a bit of trouble. Let's go ahead and play Lizard into the Throne Room. That's going to give us a pretty big resource there. It does put it within Shang-Chi range, though. So the Lizard that they have does tell me it's probably more of like a Sarah Tech or Sarah Counter. And so they will have Killmonger somewhere in their deck. Just a matter of when do they get it. And so, I mean, let's go ahead and do Crossbone. We have the extra energy from Superflow. Let's go ahead and do Crossbones. Depending on what they play, ooh, Bishop could get pretty wild pretty quick. But if they only have 1, 4, 6 spots to play, it's not as wild. Maybe we just go for the sneaky Superflow lock. That's my read. We do have Jeff to help support it just a little bit. And then if they overtake us in the Throne Room, we have the Shang-Chi lean in on and play. So I think they're going to play for Throne Room or Kunlun, not the Superflow this turn. And so we do get the sneaky Professor X lock. Now they only have 4 spaces to play for now. If we get Spider-Man, then we can almost guarantee that the Throne Room is ours. We don't. So how do we navigate this? All right, I'm going to do Enchantress and Ghost. We're going to take away the Lizard's ability because I assume they're going to want to flood their cards. And so they're going to want to trigger the Lizard's negative ability. But their Shang-Chi comes down. Our Enchantress comes down. It takes away the negative of the Lizard. Now we have 2 10 power cards because they're both 5. So unless they can, I mean, they could get this one above 5, right? But even though we have 2 lanes locked down, we don't go first. So let's go ahead and do the Shang-Chi. We're going to sneak in. We need to sneak any extra in? Superflow? I don't think we do. I think we play just for the Throne Room. They play enough cards to even just match this one. Then we're going to destroy what they have. They've already played their Shang-Chi, so I think we're okay. We're going to go ahead and lock this in. Let's see what they have. Scarlet Witch changes the Throne Room. Ooh, okay. Into Rickety Bridge. Oh my god, that is awful. That's the worst thing that could have happened. It's oh no. They win theirs by 7. We win ours by 3. Had we played some of the resources into Kunlun, maybe a little bit different. Had we played our Mooster Fantastic anywhere? Oh no. Oh, we got rinsed. All right. We will take the 2 cube loss. That one I chalk up to Scarlet Witch. That's all I chalk it up to. We're going to take the 2 cube loss. I probably should have seen the Scarlet Witch coming or known that it was a potential play. We'll take the 2 cube loss. Let's jump over next. All right. Next up, we have BLT. The first location is Hala. So we're not gonna we're gonna avoid playing there with most of our resources. Most likely avoid playing. Let's go ahead and start the game with our Jeff into Nidavellir. We get Spider-Man, so we will be able to lock down Nidavellir on 5 into 6. Probably going to be one of the better power advantages that we get from this. So they have a Morbius. That tells me it's probably a standard Apocalypse discard deck. Sometimes there are some cheeky like Collector, Helicarrier builds, but I don't think they're as consistent. They have a higher kind of power output or reach whenever they hit it, but they're not quite as consistent as the other version. So they got a Hawkeye from the hub, which is so unfortunate. We do have the lead in all 3 locations right now. So let's lean in with a Crossbones. We can do a Crossbones. Turn 5, we can do maybe a Professor X into that lane. And then even if they do get a Dracula into Nidavellir or wherever they end up getting it, I think we... Ooh, wait, they stack the Morbius and the Dracula? That's unfortunate. Oh, I guess if they had played Dracula here, it would have gotten destroyed. Either way, it's very unfortunate. Let's go with Professor X into Hala. I think no matter what they play a MODOK, we're fine. Even if they get the swarms, I think we should be all right. And so they do play one card, the MODOK into Hala. I'm assuming swarm discards here. We have the Apocalypse once, the Hellcow, Wolverine. Okay, the Wolverine bounces into Nidavellir, which is big for him. The Nebula, the Storm, no. Okay, so they do have their potential Apocalypse play. Fortunately, we did not get Ghost on the board, so doing something like a Shang-Chi, if we had it, into Nidavellir would not be possible. I think they're going to try to be cheeky. I think by stacking, they're going to go with the lower power play into the Dracula, so the Chavez. I'm going to try to call that bluff. We're going to move the Jeff. We're going to play the Lizard and the Enchantress both into mid. That's going to take away at least 10 power that they're counting on here. And hopefully I get the right read. Hopefully they play their big Apocalypse into Nidavellir, and which is against what you normally would want to do, or the normal play line that you want to do with the Dracula play. But whenever you're facing needing that extra power, that extra reach in that location, a lot of times it can be the right call, unless you're playing heads up and you're able to identify it. But we are able to win off of the Enchantress, the Lizard, the Jeff play into the hub, and we will absolutely take it. That is where we're going to go ahead and end the video. Overall, I think this is an incredible showcase for Ghost. I think Ghost has a lot of applications in this style of deck, because a lot of times we're going to be fighting for priority and having initiative, and Ghost is going to allow us to drop it so that we can successfully counter those big plays in the few remaining lanes on the last turn of the game. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a like and a comment down below, and make sure to check out Safetyblade's content. He is always brewing and creating some incredible decks as far as the game goes. So definitely check out his content if you enjoyed this deck. But as always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.